It was a long and difficult road to Downing Street for Boris Johnson. Now that he's moved in, the Prime Minister seems determined to take the world's fifth largest economy where his predecessor could not.
We are now committed, all of us, to leaving the European Union on October the 31st, or indeed earlier. No ifs, no buts, but we're not going to wait.
To ensure his government isn't sidetracked, the new leader has filled his cabinet with fellow Brexit supporters. Headlining Johnson's team is Dominic Raab, now the UK's Foreign Secretary. The Eurosceptic is making his return to the cabinet after a brief stint as Brexit Secretary. He left the post last year due to disagreements with former Prime Minister Theresa May over the divorce terms negotiated by Brussels.
Obviously, the Foreign Office, the message we send about the opportunities around the world and our confidence in our country and taking those opportunities with enthusiasm and optimism is something I can't wait to get involved with.
To steer the economy through Brexit, Johnson has chosen Sajid Javid. May's Home Secretary now holds the government's purse strings as Chancellor of the Exchequer. He'll play a crucial role in delivering on Johnson's promise to raise spending on infrastructure and education to offset the negative effects of Brexit.
So that's what I'll be focusing on. There's lots of work to do, so if you allow me, I'm going to get on with it.
Other members of the new economic team include Andrea Leadsom, a Leave campaigner who's been named Business Secretary. And small government advocate Liz Truss is taking the job of International Trade Secretary. Several MPs say they expect Johnson to call early elections to strengthen his mandate to get Brexit done with or without a deal. But if he can't win voters over, he could be the one leaving. Paolo Montecillo, TRT World.
Well, let's get a better look into Boris Johnson's cabinet now with Chris Roebuck in London. He's a visiting professor of Transformational Leadership at the Cass Business School in London. Welcome back to Money Talks, Chris. Now, a lot of people are making a lot about how Boris Johnson has essentially stacked his cabinet full of Brexiteers, but should we really be surprised by that?
No, we shouldn't be surprised, but if we look at this from the leadership perspective, it's quite obvious. If you're a leader and you want to get something done, you have to get people involved emotionally so they want to make it happen. Now, he's done that with his team because they are all on the same page. If you also want to make it happen, you need to have a rational plan to make it happen, and they are going to put together a rational plan. The only problem is that Boris can't get it done only using the people around him. He has to get it through the Houses of Parliament. And the problem is that less than 50% of people in the Houses of Parliament are emotionally attached to getting out of the EU, particularly with no deal. If you look at the rational plan side, is this a credible, sensible plan? One, we know the EU don't want to renegotiate. Two, we know the parliamentary numbers are so tight, he's only got potentially, with a by-election, maybe one spare vote. And then three, in terms of time, he's got about 92, 93 days to make this happen in a period when lots of people are on holiday. So in terms of, is this a realistic, sensible plan to deliver something this complicated, this quickly? I think there's a lot of people who say probably not.
Interesting, but this is the whole reason why Boris Johnson is Prime Minister, isn't it? The fact that he is willing to stare down the European Union and exit without a deal if it comes to it. So do you think he has a mandate then to deliver Brexit by any means, even if it means crashing out?
I think there's an open question in terms of what does doing Brexit mean? Yes, people voted for Brexit, but does that mean Brexit at any cost? If somebody says to you, do you want to go on a holiday into a warm place? And you say yes, you're expecting somewhere nice. You're not expecting to be sent to a battlefield in Afghanistan. So, the comment about what does Brexit mean? Yes, Brexit means leaving the EU, but what is the price that people are prepared to pay? And whilst the members of the Conservative Party who voted Boris Johnson in are prepared to have the breakup of the United Kingdom and significant economic damage to the economy, the vast majority of members of the general public aren't prepared to go that far.
Well, let's look at one of Boris Johnson's main appointments, and that's Sajid Javid as Chancellor of the Exchequer. How significant is that changing of the guard, and what's he likely to do with the UK's finances?
Well, I think obviously Philip Hammond, the predecessor, had to go because he had not always agreed with Boris. And Hammond also raised some slightly awkward questions in terms of, look, you know, where is the money going to come from? And the figures for the buffer, so to speak, within the economy aren't actually completely guaranteed. You know, as with politicians in any country, in any election, anywhere, they offer everybody lots of nice things to get them voted in. All of these things cost money. And the fundamental problem that Javid is facing is, with all the promises that have been made today and yesterday, people are asking the fundamental question, great, nice idea, but where's the cash coming from? And he needs to be able to come up with a sensible plan to produce the money to make it happen, particularly if we get to a no-deal Brexit, where all the evidence is that the economy is going to take a hit. If the economy takes a hit, government revenues take a hit. If government revenues take a hit, spending plans take a hit.
Now, Boris Johnson has also revealed more about what he wants to do with Brexit, and one of those things is to remove the so-called Irish backstop provision from the current withdrawal agreement.
Yep.
Now, the EU has ruled out any such change to this deal. Do you think we're in for some ugly scenes here in Brussels?
Ugly scenes is a nice way to describe it. With Boris's charismatic verbiage plus the cool, calm bureaucrats in the EU, it should be an interesting set of meetings by anyone's description. I think, you know, you have to look at this pragmatically. You are looking at the EU with 27 member countries, all of whom are agreed, dealing with a member who wants to leave the club. If you have one person who wants to leave a club of multiple people, in the most simple terms, the club holds most of the cards. Yes, the individual can make life difficult and annoy the members of the club, but in the final analysis, if they go, the club stays intact. And therefore, in most people's assessment, the potential damage to UK versus the potential damage to EU is much greater, and therefore Boris's calculations need to be based on that. The question is, do the rational calculations of potential damage get put to one side because of his charismatic ideals and desire to deliver what he needs to deliver, no matter what the cost?
Looks like we're in for a bit of a ride, aren't we? Chris Roebuck in London, thank you for your analysis as always.